Critical review of the SMOE protection of teachers' educational activities policy. From the perspective of educational liberalization, opposition to state monopoly, a free textbook publication system, teachers' authority to grant credits under the high school credit system, rejection of seniority-based hierarchies in the national civil service model, expert oversight by demand-side actors, SMOE, and strengthening of consumer choice. While this policy of the Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education, SMOE, has the advantage of reducing on-site anxiety in the short term and contributing to the restoration of teacher authority through legal and psychological support and response systems for infringements, its design tends to equate protection with the concentration of administrative and legal instruments, which carries a high risk of shrinking the autonomy and diversity of educational activities as well as expert oversight and choice based on parents and students. As state and SMOE-centered standardized operations and KPIs are strengthened, teachers risk becoming administrative wards and mere rule followers, and the goals of educational liberalization, autonomy in curriculum, assessment, and career design, differentiation and supplier competition, and decentralized accountability, are weakened. Therefore, while maintaining minimum standards for safety, children's rights, and financial transparency, the protection system should be redesigned to combine teacher autonomy and professional capacity building with measures to resolve information asymmetries for consumers, decentralized dispute resolution, and market-style signals, choice/reputation/incentives. In terms of alignment between policy goals and instruments, the problem that protection has been substituted with regulation and centralization is pronounced. Dedicated attorneys, the One School One Attorney Scheme, SEM 119 emergency support, institutionalized committees, recorded phone lines and ARS, and a KakaoTalk channel are measures that thicken the legal administrative shield, while budgets and KPIs focus on centralized, quantitative indicators such as the number of cases handled, the number of meetings and trainings, and installation rates. This cages teachers' educational activities within a case and civil complaint risk management frame, suppressing creative attempts and differentiation such as curricular content choices, assessment methods, and timetable flexibility. The more the protection system is fortified, the more frontline judgment becomes subordinate to committees, dedicated attorneys, and guidelines, weakening organic quality assurance through direct adjustment and choice between teachers and parents. A desirable liberalization-oriented design for teacher professionalism and authority would expand teachers' authority to grant credits under the high school credit system, greater autonomy in assessment and deeper process-based evaluation, thereby enabling instructional innovation and personalization. Promote teaching learning innovation via the free publication of textbooks to increase curricular diversity and supplier competition, and mitigate the rigidity of seniority-based hierarchies in the national civil service system so that performance and expertise are reflected in transfers, compensation, and promotion. By contrast, the current plan is heavily skewed toward post hoc defense, legal and counseling support, lacks ex-ante autonomy mechanisms such as expanding authority over course design and assessment, and risks entrenching a model answer culture through the expansion of committees, guidelines, and trainings, pushing teachers toward risk-averse behavior that seeks only minimum safety within regulations. Regarding demand-side expert oversight and choice, the ideal structure is one in which parents and students compare and evaluate information on educational philosophies, assessment methods, and outcomes, learning growth and interaction quality, exercise expert oversight through school and teacher choice, and have those choices feed back into reputation and incentives to drive quality competition. However, the current plan, with its case-centered KPIs, reliance on centralized committees, and administration focused on integrated one-stop channels, encourages processing and reporting over choice and reputation. The denser the counseling, healing, and civil complaint response systems become, the more resources and policy attention are diverted away from consumer information disclosure and choice enhancement. The expansion of legal and administrative apparatuses can stifle educational diversity. Networking dedicated attorneys, regularizing meetings, and proliferating guidelines and manuals create procedural right answers that suppress frontline experimentation. While standardizing communication, recorded phone lines, call connection announcements, can help prevent disputes, it reduces incentives for autonomous conflict resolution, direct teacher-parent agreements. As a result, when minimizing civil complaints becomes the supreme value, high-risk, high-reward experiments, such as play and project-based learning, differentiated difficulty, and diversified assessment, decline. In personnel and compensation structures, a shift away from seniority and toward reflecting performance and expertise is needed. Promotion should move from seniority-based to portfolio-based, reflecting educational outcomes, instructional innovation, and student growth. Variable stipends should be introduced based on teacher qualifications, research, subject expertise, and community contribution, with weightings for small and alternative schools. The quasi-civil service employment framework should be partially relaxed to strengthen on-site fit through hiring and evaluation that involves school foundations and parent committees. The rationale is that liberalization presupposes a decentralization of authority and responsibility, and without changes in personnel and compensation, autonomy mechanisms become hollow. The core of the alternative design is a state of minimum standards, schools of diversity, and consumer choice. In regulation and governance, minimum standards should be confined to safety, children's rights, and financial transparency, with the rest explicitly vested in school and teacher autonomy. Move away from punitive civil complaint and dispute handling toward agreement and mediation-based resolution, sharing the right to recommend mediators with parents and the community. Reduce case handling KPIs and adopt qualitative reviews aligned with learning quality indicators, random classroom observations and interaction rubrics. For information disclosure and choice, publish dashboards that present each school's and teacher's educational philosophy, course and assessment methods, learning outcomes, growth indicators, teacher-student interaction indicators, and parent-perceived quality. Allow vouchers plus top-up payments to support program diversity, while compensating for equity with weighted vouchers for disadvantaged groups. In the realm of professionalism and autonomy, gradually expand the scope of free textbook publication, grant schools the authority to adopt while having parent committees review, strengthen teacher assessment authority within the credit system, meaningfully reflecting process, oral, and project evaluations in credits, and increase the proportion of students' teacher choice. Risk management should be sandboxed, allow pre-registered exceptions for innovative instruction and assessment under ethical and safety guardrails, evaluate afterward to enable learning and diffusion, and shift the roles of attorneys and committees toward exception design advisory and post hoc improvement. Budgets and KPIs need to be redesigned. Reallocate budgets from case handling and committee operation to instructional quality improvement, information disclosure, and choice infrastructure, for example, operating costs for sample quality observations, building and maintaining public dashboards, teacher portfolio evaluation systems, and parent coaching for educational choice. Shift KPIs as follows: quantitative indicators such as a parental choice diversity index, teacher-level diversity in subjects and assessment, share of choice-based placement, and realization rates of choice for disadvantaged groups. Qualitative indicators such as classroom observation rubrics, teacher-student interaction, task challenge level, engagement in play/inquiry, and parent/student perceived trust. While SMOE's policy is meaningful for short-term dispute response and psychological/legal protection, from a liberalization perspective there is a substantial risk that administrative standards and case management will replace the core values of education: autonomy, diversity, choice, and accountability. Only by redefining the state's role as a guarantor of minimum standards, granting teachers real authority over assessment, materials, and course design, giving consumers information and choice, and providing schools with incentives for differentiation, can the protection of teachers' educational activities shift from mere protection to a policy that fosters professionalism and freedom.